I've covered this a few different times over the past couple months since it happened, and I was really hoping that things would not go this way in court because the charges were so ridiculous that you would think that no judge or jury would actually let that go. But there were two Trump-appointed judges that definitely had a political agenda. They 100% rigged the trial by controlling what evidence was shown, by preventing the defense from putting forward certain arguments, preventing any kind of civil rights defense, any kind of self-defense for the one guy who fired off a gun that day. One guy is getting 30 years just for moving a box of zines, of anti-fascist zines. Yeah, check the links in the YouTube chat if you're interested, for sure. This happened on the 4th of July too. And basically some activists were outside setting off fireworks and, making a bunch of noise, protesting, as people usually do. A cop came out and pointed his gun at somebody in the crowd. And then one of the protesters, from their side of the story, they fired a shot at the ground as like suppressive fire is what they said. And it ricocheted and hit a cop. There's some discrepancy. I've seen reports saying initially it was the neck and then they said the shoulder. He survived and seemed to have made a full recovery. So I'm guessing it's the shoulder. You know what I mean? He didn't get hurt. But I think either way, that guy was going to get in trouble. But people that had nothing to do with that guy, didn't even bring a gun that day, and weren't even at the protest that day are being charged. And the judge said specifically, like, this is because of your ideology, and we want to discourage people from taking political action like this in the future. Yeah, zines are like those magazines or pamphlets that you'll see passed around at protests a lot. A very, very old school method of communication, which is still, quite powerful. But the fact that this guy is being accused of like concealing evidence because, he was afraid that those magazines would implicate his wife, who she was sentenced to 70 years just for being at the protest. So like, this isn't just they were charged, they were convicted, and this is the sentence that the judges gave him. The guy that fired the weapon, he got 100 years, which, attempted murder is not 100-year sentence. The one woman that I think she might have been handing out the zines, but I'm making an assumption there, she got 70. This guy is the one I was just talking about, Daniel Sanchez Estrada, who was not even present at the protest, got 30 years for moving a box of his own anti-fascist zines after the protest occurred. And then another one will be sentenced next week. And then there's a few more that took plea deals, and they'll still be getting 15 years. Now, I've already heard that there's going to be an appeal, which I'm hoping that there is, some justice there. But I have some doubts depending on what judges are going to be appointed. And these people did not really do anything. I mean, they didn't do anything at all. They showed up at a protest. They left when they were asked to. But just because they were in a signal chat with this dude that fired a gun and that they were all wearing black, they're being wrapped up in this conspiracy terrorism charge. Let's look at some of these judges too. This one guy, Mark Pittman, so yeah, U.S. State's District Judge, was appointed by President Trump in 2019, and he's a member of the Federalist Society. Not only that, but he's a vice president and founding member of the Tarrant County Federalist Society. Yeah, they're the people that are pushing the originalist philosophy to the Constitution, which is how they got Roe versus Wade overturned. So he's like a supporter of all that. And then there's the other guy, Reed O'Connor. He was appointed by George W. Bush. Many of his rulings have been reversed after appeal. He is also a member of the Federalist Society. O'Connor has become a go-to favorite for conservative lawyers because they claim he reliably rules against Democratic policies and for Republican policies, which of course the judges are not supposed to do. They're not supposed to be political on that level. They're supposed to be unbiased, but they all work for the establishment at the end of the day. Like when you're in court, especially if you have a public defender, everybody's on the same side. Like they all work for the same people, the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense. And even in a case where you have a good independent defense attorney, the prosecutor and the judge are still on the same side. That doesn't seem legit, to begin with. Like there's already a bias. But then when you have somebody who's basically like an activist judge, which this guy seems to be, one of the people who wrote the indictment is like the member or like current leader of a hate group. And he was the person who defined what Antifa was for the jury. I want to take a look at a statement that was published by Benjamin Song, who is the person who fired the shot that day. So he says, I don't hate anyone. I don't hate cops. I don't hate Trump. I don't hate the Nazis. My beliefs are composed thus. First, that we should help each other. And second, that we should protect one another. I never want to see anyone get hurt. I never want to see good people standing up for what they believe in, gunned down in the street. What we all saw happen to Renee Good and Alex Preddy is my worst nightmare. It was the kind of thing that I had feared for a long time, after dealing with officers who could be reckless, who could be bullies, who could be violent. But fear is not hate. Sadness is not hate. Wanting people to live is not hate. So when I was standing in the street on July 4th, 2025, in plain view with reflective safety strips and high visibility clothing, what I saw right in front of my eyes was my worst nightmare. When I saw Lieutenant Thomas Gross stop pursuing and point his gun at the back of a running, unarmed protester, like he testified, I was terrified. So the cop admitted that he pointed the gun at somebody who was running away. As a firearms instructor and a United States Marine Corps veteran, I understood what I was seeing. I knew what it meant for someone to lean forward into a gun like he testified to prepare for recoil. As the evidence showed, I did not want to hurt anyone. I never had the intent to hurt anyone. I tried my best to avoid hurting anyone. It is impossible to say that I was trying to ambush anyone or planning any violence. I was shocked and surprised and saddened. I am so grateful for what didn't happen. I am so grateful that we are not in the morning, or we are not here mourning another death and tragedy, another Alex Preddy, another Renee Good, another Botham Jean, another Atiana Jefferson, another Philando Castile. Now, 22 people have been arrested, have been prosecuted, have been tortured for what? For nothing. None of these people really did anything, and none of these people have anything to do with what happened with me. This is wrong. This is mass punishment. This is collective punishment. This is guilt by association. This is injustice. Back in 1895, the white supremacist and U.S. Senator Pitchfork Ben Tillman gave a speech to the Constitutional Convention of South Carolina on how to use injustice to take power. He said, "How did we recover our liberty? By fraud and violence. We tried to overcome the 30,000 majority by honest means, which was mathematical impossibility. After burying these indignities for 8 years, life became worthless. This is how men take power over others, by injustice, by fraud, and by violence. That history matters because injustice has always been dangerous. It does not only harm the person standing in court, it spreads. It teaches people to be afraid. It teaches people that the government can decide who is guilty first and look for reasons afterwards. First, they covered up and hid evidence. Second, they banned every black juror so no one would question the police." And see, yeah, that's how they get the jurors, is the upfront selection of the jurors most often. They can exclude jurors in the middle, but I think it's a little bit more difficult to do at that point. Third, they told me I had no right to protect myself or anyone else, and they told me I wasn't even allowed to say the word self-defense. Yeah, that's a rigged trial. As you heard at the trial, they tortured their own witnesses. American citizens were tortured and terrorized and medically neglected. 3 men died in jail last week, by the way. And now a 24-year-old has had a heart attack. A 50-year-old woman has said she would die in this case. Mothers, fathers, teachers, students, package workers, programmers, and engineers are persecuted and tortured in this case. People are being treated as if their lives do not matter. All of this is bigger than me. I know I am the person standing here. I know I am the person being judged, but I also know that a case like this can become a warning to everyone else. That if you speak, if you protest, if you try to protect someone, if you are associated with the wrong idea, you can be turned into a symbol instead of treated like a human being. Nothing saddens me more than when I think about all of these different people and their different families and communities and how they have suffered and how unfairly they have been treated just like me. Whatever is taken from me is taken from you. It may be these 22 strangers now, but it will be you tomorrow. On June 9th of this year, the president of the Southern Poverty Law Center testified that hate has migrated into the government. Into the government, the hate is right there. I would argue that it's been there for a long time, but it is getting a massive injection for sure. And I think massive permission to take the mask off. you know? The government, in its secret motion to give a life sentence, calls me the embodiment of Antifa. What does that even mean? I am not a member of a group called Antifa. I am not a part of any terrorist organization. There is no group called Antifa. Everyone knows that, but this government is so blinded by hate, they've arrested 22 good people for nothing. They want to bury me with an idea. The idea that they hate is the very idea of being against fascism. What kind of people are not against fascism? What kind of people are not against the hate and war and genocide and concentration camps that the Nazis brought upon the world? What kind of people would not agree to no kings and no Führers? The hate has migrated into the government. Now that hate is taking power over me, it is taking power over you, over your words and ideas. When will you be called a domestic terrorist too? When they killed Renee Good and Alex Preddy, they went on TV and they called them domestic terrorists the same day within the hour. When will it happen to you? When I was standing in my home city of Dallas for 11 days, I did fear that I might die at any moment from a government that I think is hateful and vindictive. I did not run because I wanted to escape responsibility. I stayed because I wanted to survive long enough to do the right thing. I don't fear for myself, I fear for all of you. What will you do in this time of great failures and great injustices? What will you do? How will you help each other? And how will you help yourselves? Damn, that's crazy. I think if the jury was able to hear anything about that, I think 100 years would have been difficult. And if they had a legitimate jury, because right here is not only a self-defense argument, but it's also an argument against premeditation, because he was there like with reflective gear on. He wasn't wearing black, but the other people who were wearing black, see that the fact that he had reflective gear on and he wasn't even wearing black, it blows apart their argument, which was bullshit to begin with. And of course, you know, people should not be arrested for wearing black, but the people who didn't shoot were not even wearing the same thing as the people who shot, the person who shot. I'm hoping they all get serious appeals, but I do think our best shot is a pardon, but I also have doubts that the libs will do anything. I mean, Obama did pardon Chelsea Manning eventually, like on his way out. I don't know how he got Leonard Peltier from Biden. Ross Albright's obvious. They paid Trump for that. That was cut and dry. But this is one of those things that people need to attach to any as like a floor for any Democrat that they want to try to elect. Like, you need to abolish ICE and arrest them. Hopefully that second part. And, you know, end these wars and pardon these people. And not just them, the other people that are, I mean, there's going to be, this is going to have to be like January 6th level pardon, a blanket pardon of all Antifa. I mean, they did it. And the sentences that the January 6 people got were like nothing compared to this. The biggest sentence that they got was like 25 years for organizing it. And that was like, they were legitimately trying to overthrow the government. It was a very poorly planned attempt, but you know, we are living in concerning times, especially when you have somebody who isn't even at the protest who's charged.